we do now proceed to our question and answer period, but before I start that, may I just ask Professor Warnock if he has any quick comments on the presentations from the panelists.
Sure. So first, thank you to each of the panelists for the comments. I wouldn't say that I disagree with anything stated, maybe in some of the details. I do want to underscore one very important point brought up by each of the panelists that was an omission in my presentation. The discussion on prudential regulation and macro-prudential measures and things of that nature. This is clearly, so it was brought up by each of the discussants, clearly an important point, an important omission from my presentation. So I'm happy that that we heard that not once, not twice, but 3 times, which is good. And I also fully agree with Laura's point on developing financial markets. Veronica and I do a lot of work on developing bond markets around the world, and this is in our view, very important. Building the capacity of the bond markets and having efficient bond markets as a reasonable funding source for companies, not just government, for companies, I think is important, and helps enable the development of derivatives markets, which will help people better shed risk if they want. So I think that's a very important point as well. And the only response, so I very much like Ju Hong's presentation. If the main complaint you have is that I used manipulating instead of managing, I'm okay with that. We can go to managing. I'll note that I said the same thing about the U.S., so use the same word. But yeah, that's perfectly fine. I can change that. But thank you again to each of the panelists.
Thank you. Now we start our question and answer portion. According to that clock up there, it's about 3:20, which means we have about 40 minutes for this session. So take advantage of it. What I'd like us to do, though, is you raise your hands if you want to raise a question. I will acknowledge you as I see you raise your hands, and once I ask you to start your question, please state your name and the organization you represent, and then get on with your question. Please, because there might be many questions, ask only one question at a time. Do not start your question by saying, I have 3 things to ask. That's one. And second, please try to ask a question. Don't go into your own speech about the subject matter before you get onto your question, or else I'm going to be brutal and cut you off. So, questions, please. Raise your hands, and I will acknowledge you as I see your hands raised. I thought I saw a hand back there. Your name, please, and your organization.
My name is Neha. My name is Neha. I'm a cohort 6 MBA graduate at AIM. My question would be for Professor Warnock. In the recent years, we've seen in microeconomics, we've seen that we have started seeing things from a different perspective. We've moved from lens of choice to lens of contract, moving to transaction cost economics. Are we also seeing, or do we expect to see a different structure or in macroeconomics evolving in due course of time? Because with all the disruption that's happened in the major economies, do we see that or economists or governments would like to have a different structure in place to ensure that these things don't happen again?
I'll try to interpret your question. So at first I thought you were talking about the theory of macroeconomics and is it evolving? The answer is yes, it is evolving, and The state of the art also it always evolves, especially when a crisis hits, and then all the best minds try to understand exactly what went wrong, what went wrong with the models. Unfortunately, sometimes this is not very forward-looking, right? Because they're reacting to the past, but it does. It evolves. The macroeconomics evolves each and every day. Now the question is, then it seemed that it morphed into do we need a different system? I think clearly, and this came up with, I think first with Omar's comments, we clearly in the U.S. over the past 5 or 6 years, so a major flaw was a movement away from regulation and allowing the markets to take more control, and a lot of deregulation went on without thinking carefully about the incentives that were in place for people to actually do the right thing. And so I think that model of just kind of blind deregulation I don't see anybody. I should be careful with this, but most people don't think we should go down that route again. We did that. We tried that. It clearly didn't work, right? And so Omar's point that the regulation remain prudent here is a good one, and it's well taken. We didn't do that in the U.S., not just in the U.S., and that's a major change, right? There is currently rethinking of bank regulation, but not just bank regulation, broader financial sector regulation going on, and that will evolve.
Thank you.